Good? All right. Marlon here with the Plain Values Podcast. I wanted to take a second and just bring a little bit of context to the podcast that you're about to see. Typically, when a podcast is launched, you do the pilot and then you release an episode every week or one or two every month for that remainder of the season. We are currently recording the entire, the heart of our season right now. So it's not going to launch. We're not going to be actually releasing any episodes until the fall. But this one is being dropped now because of a corresponding bargain hunter story in the local paper here. So that's what's going on there. Guys, it is a fantastic conversation with some friends of mine. I really hope you enjoy it. So thanks very much.
This friend had buried his mom, the summer before, last year, and he said he just made a comment about how much he would love to, if he could go back, he would put his mom and dad together in a room on film, with a mic and just ask them questions about, what were we like as kids? What was it like for you guys as kids? And what was your life like? Everything that Plain Values is about, everything that my wife and I are about, with our kids and our little, farm thing is everything that we're about is about slowing down and really living in the moment. Out of all that, I want this studio to be a place where families can just, call me, text me, whatever, and just come and use it. Just come use this thing. I've got, there's 3 cameras here. There's a bunch of mics. You can literally come and use this, to capture those memories like we've been talking about.
You want to spend some time introducing them, and then we can maybe put this at the beginning, just talk about who each of you are and.
Sure. Rock, do you want to go first and just?
Well, my name is Rock Baker. I'm the third son of 6 sons of my parents, and I'm very involved in the Holmes County area and activities and boards and things like that. My background, I was a CPA, went to work with my brothers at Bakerwell, so I retired from Bakerwell. I still go to work, but I don't get paid anymore. It's one of those things. Married to Bonnie Barnhart Baker, and I have 2 sons and 4 grandkids, and just loving life right now. Retirement is great. I should have done it years ago. Bonnie and I are just enjoying traveling and playing games. We played pickleball yesterday with Dave, and of course he and his wife whooped us. So
not true.
They really come on.
Yeah,
Dave.
Dave Mast. I am co-owner of the Bargain Hunter, Alanovus, which my mom and dad started 50 years ago. So in 1973, they out of the blue started this newspaper that has really, I think, become a kind of a heartbeat of Holmes County, I guess, in Amish country. But I co-own it with my brothers, John and Michael, and it has been an absolute blessing just to be able to share what we view as good news. We don't tend not to do anything really outrageously horrible because we don't feel there's enough of that in the world. And so, and a part of our journey is to share stories like we've talked about this morning, and it's really unique because all 4 of us run it. We know a lot of people, and we meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people. And obviously, as a journalist, that's part of my job. And being able to hear their stories and to share their stories is so fulfilling for me. And that is the biggest joy. I've met so many incredible people, and there's so many unique, awesome stories out there. And it's really been fun to be able to share those stories. So that's been part of my journey. As a person who came up not having taken a single class in journalism at all. So it was new to me coming into it. It came about by sports. I mean, I've always been a sports head. My dad could share stories about sports. I mean, he used to play against Bobby Knight when he was in high school. He ripped him a new one, Really? They crushed Bobby Knight every time they played him. Because Dad was a terrific player. He's in the Hall of Fame at Bluffton for basketball. But he's just a good athlete. But I mean, he could share stories like anybody's business, but that's a little bit about who I am. So,
my name is Marcus Yoder. I'm the executive director of the Amish Mennonite Heritage Center, better known as Behalt. And our vision at Behalt, we use a painting, 10 feet high, 265 feet long, to tell stories about our history. So in any given year, we'll see people from 100 nations, all 50 states. This is an amazing fact. Since 2013, when we started tracking, there's 195 nations in the world. It changes, but we've had visitors from 187 of those countries that would tell stories too about our Amish and Mennonite world. I'm married to Narita. We do not have children. We have a spoiled little house puppy named Theodore Roosevelt Yoder. Our pets have always been named after presidents. Both Narita and I had the privilege to later in life attend school. So we both graduated from the Ohio State University. We're taught to say that on graduation day. Say it like that. And Yale University.
You know that ticks a lot of people off when you say that.
Yeah, I know. Purposefully. I do it. My great love in life is books. I love books. Books opened the gate for me and allowed me to go to college with an 8th grade education and do well. Books are stories, and they open the doors for us to just be able to see the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, my name's Marlon Miller. 12, 13 years ago, I started a magazine with my wife called Plain Values. We have 4 kids. We have adopted all 4. And we talk a lot about all kinds of ministry stuff. We talk about adoption and special needs. It's been fantastic. Probably a year or so before we actually published our first thing, I made the comment to Lisa. I said, if we do this, then I want to see one kid with Down syndrome. 2 of our kids have Down syndrome. One has mosaic Down syndrome, and then the other one, our oldest one, lives in a group home now and is on the spectrum and just has a fair amount of trauma. And I made the comment to Lisa. I said, I want to see one kid with Down syndrome come home to his or her forever family because of our work. And over the years, we have been able to be a part of 41 kids in 40 adoptions. There was a set of little baby boys, both with Down syndrome, that needed a family. And we were able to connect them with an agency and just help them with, the money side. Our readers have given us over $500,000 to just, dump into adoptions. And it has been a real joy. I've never in a million years would I have expected to do anything like this. I don't have to go to work. I think you guys probably understand that. So it's been a great time. And I kind of feel like this studio is just like the next step of that, capturing the stories and, just that whole journey. I was with my mom just the other night. She pulled out a photo of my grandpa, her dad, and he's been gone for 20, 25 years. Old Amish, guy, big, long gray beard. It is the only image of Dottie that I've ever seen. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty special. So, yeah.
My mom just found a whole bunch of my dad in his 30s and 40s.
Oh, wow.
And he died 10 years ago this year. And man, I relish those things are beautiful.
That's so cool.
There's a unique story that my dad's siblings were, my grandma on dad's side was an incredibly gifted musician. And that whole Mast side of the families, they're all musically inclined. And it was kind of cool because his siblings, when they were young, because dad was an Oopser, he was like 8 years behind the rest of the kids. So the other 4 kids were performers. Mm-hmm. And they would sing, dance, tap dance. They had a whole routine. So years ago, there used to be a thing called Major Bows. This Major Bows show, it was a national thing. And they had all these regional competitions where all these people would come and perform. And so they had one at Strasbourg. So the Mast siblings went and did their thing at Strasbourg and won that regional competition and qualified to go to New York. And this is when they were all, Kenny, who is now 99 years old, would have been just maybe 10 or 12 years old. They were all pretty young. And maybe he was a little older than that. But they went to the New York national competition and ended up finishing second. Wow. Which is really impressive. And, their stories would be cool to share because, again, that's something our family, we know a lot about. But even I don't know all the details. And it would be neat to continue to have that to hear. So something like this would be ideal for that.
Yeah.
And if we could convince some of the old Amish people.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd love to bring, keep going.
No, I that's exactly right. There's a local guy here, in town, Glenn Wingard.
Yeah. Yeah, you get
If you guys know Glenn,
Yeah.
he knows, he is our local historian
it's Winesburg
for
history.
everything. He knows the stories of, John Rockefeller bringing Henry Ford in, Ford would convince the local, car dealer to start selling Fords, and then he bring in Rockefeller to sell Standard Oil. They had some kind of an arrangement, and here they come. So it's really interesting.
I sort of feel like every village, every small little town has that guy. And every family also has that person.
That's right.
They've all got a Marcus Yoder who just can share and tell stories, and it's usually one person who can really carry the conversation on those type of things. But
And then when they're gone, then that town loses so much.
Yeah.
It all just, not all, but the lion's share of it can just disappear overnight, and it's a real shame.
In Kilbuck, it was John Duncan and his family. They had a mill down
Duncan
there called
Theater.
the Lily White Mill, and they burnt that down in like 65. But the 2 or 3 generations before that, Duncan's had about 2/3 of Kilbuck owning their property, and just everything went on. It had 3 mills: a wood mill, the flour mill, and a steel mill, all driven by mills off the Kilbuck Creek in different heights. So. In the Kilbuck Museum, which if you've never been there, if you go there, there's a whole room just for that. They were significant, and after they were gone, it's like that person that has the original passion to make things go. It's gone. You're right, and it all changes, and the town becomes something different. Yeah. It's lost.
It's wild how quickly that can happen, just so fast. So. Pop died about 14 years now. In May, it'll be 14 years. And about a month after he was gone, I took my mom and my brother. We actually had to convince Mom, to go along with us a bit. But we went out to Arthur, Illinois. That's where my dad's family was from originally. And we took him out there, and there's this huge reunion because it's, multiple generations there, and there was effectively, a small portion of the family, and there were still 500, 600, 700 people there at a big fairgrounds. And it was a great time because, a lot of those cousins had just, come here to help us bury Dad. And so there was this bittersweet thing going on, and it was just a really, really special time. The night before everybody was going to go, part ways and everybody, head back home. But, the family is from all over the place, Florida and Arkansas and Missouri and all over the place. But that very last night, the storytelling started. And it was this, I've said this before, it was almost like a salve to our family's soul. It was so good. And I just drank it in. And I know that it was hard for Mom, but it was so good for her. And I found myself thinking, I really don't want this to end. I really don't want it to end. And, thinking back on it now, if I would have walked around, carrying a mic and say, hey, Andy, can you tell that story again? It would have changed the whole dynamic, and it would have, the whole thing would have been different. But I have thought back over that a lot. And that modern day, it's been 14 years ago. Over the last year and a half, as I've been kind of building this little studio, I've kind of had this one-track mind of it's going to become, the studio for Plain Values, to do podcasts and, just, share it with some friends and family, whatever. But I kind of had this idea of what it was going to be. And 2 months ago, I was mentioning it to a friend of mine, and I was asking him to come and just, come and share some stories about his past and family and their work. And he said, I'll get back to you on that. But he said, I just had a friend tell me this friend had buried his mom, the summer before last year. And he said, he just made a comment about how much he would love to if he could go back, he would put his mom and dad together in a room on film, with a mic, and just ask them questions about, what were we like as kids? What was it like for you guys as kids? And what was your life like? And I just it kind of went over my head. I didn't really catch it until a couple days later. And I started thinking and kind of praying through it. And I thought, you know what? Hold on. Everything that Plain Values is about, everything that my wife and I are about, with our kids and our little, farm thing, is everything that we're about is about slowing down and really living in the moment. Our wonderful smartphones are always on, and it's just this ongoing, drain on that part of life, because it just, sucks your attention away so fast. And out of all that, I want this studio to be a place where families can just, call me, text me, whatever, and just come and use it. Just come use this thing. I've got, there's 3 cameras here. There's a bunch of mics. You can literally come and use this, to capture those memories like we've been talking about, and just get them down. I don't have an agenda. I just want it to be used. I just want it to get used, because if we don't, it's going to sit here empty 95% of the time. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the point. Yeah. I'm excited to do it. So I hope people can take advantage of it.
Well, I know, Marlon, when you called me and introduced me to the concept here, I immediately thought of a situation that I would have loved to have just captured in time. And Monty and I were visiting a museum in New Orleans, and it was called the Higgins Museum. If you remember what the Higgins was the boat that delivered all the soldiers to shore. Well, World War II, they did record a lot of foot soldiers that went through the D-Day event, and I got to sit in the booth and listen to that, and it was incredible. And when I got home and I talked to my father-in-law, who was one of those guys, he was in the second wave, and he started telling me stories that are just incredible. And it would have been great to have captured that, because he's never talked about it to his sons. He did talk to it about me. He started out, he says, "Oh yeah, Ike. I didn't like Ike. I was supposed to die that day. I went up that beach with the same shoes on I left the house with. They issued me 2 pairs of boots 3 days after I survived. I wasn't supposed to survive." And my gosh, what went on behind the scenes, and that would just been an incredible event to record. So I think it's a great idea what you're doing here, and it gives future generations an opportunity to hear an ancestor talk about their life.
Yeah. You talk about that, it's so honest and real. And I think that in today's world, when everything is TikTok and Instagram and it's all kind of staged, and very, in my eyes, it's very phony. And that's real. Those are stories that are our history and our life and our grandparents and their grandparents. And that's so important to share, just a very real. And I think, Marlon, that's part of the reason that you opened this up, is because you want that sense of reality and that sense of honesty to shine through, rather than all this pre-production, everything's glitzy and glamoury, and that's not it. That's not real. This is real. That's real.
I'm really taken by that story, because I think stories often come out of trauma. And Marlon, your story, there's this deep trauma, and it suddenly opens the gates for people to talk about their lives. And Dave, what you said about this kind of stage TikTok 18-second soundbite, when you want to convey stories, it doesn't happen that way. It's much, much more organic. I was thinking about growing up with a father who is a storyteller, and there is something amazing that happens when Dad and I would get alone. Deer camp was one of those places, or he and his brother, my 2 first cousins, we'd be in this deer camp. There'd be Swiss cheese on the table, soft Swiss cheese. You didn't refrigerate it in Dad's world. You kept it out, and Dad would start, and the room would get quiet. And I suddenly realized things about my story, my life, my dad, that no one could ever capture in that 18-second soundbite or the kind of casual meeting. And also stories come out of relationships, deep relationships, sometimes painful, sometimes good. I think about my own story a little bit, indulge me a little bit. Not long ago, I was at Walmart and walked by a man who smelled his cologne. And it took me back. That smell took me back to 1976 when a short, fat man came to my parents' porch and swindled them into buying a set of World Book encyclopedias. The tie didn't reach. The tie came about mid-chest and a polyester suit. But, the box comes, my parents kind of regretted it, but the box came, and I'm a little kid who has just learned to read. And I thought you were supposed to read them. I started with A, started reading. So I know more about aardvarks and zebras than you. But here's the point. The point is that man's cologne took me back.
Triggered those memories.
It triggers.
And opened the files, and they just start pouring out. Yeah.
And I also think that when a group of people or a family forgets their stories, they become like a dementia patient. A dementia patient cannot interact in the modern world because he can't remember. He's dismembered. And when we can remember, it actually makes us more relevant in the modern world when we remember our stories. Stories like that, like the Higgins boat. And stories like you were talking about your uncles and aunts singing. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are, powerful stories.
Yep. I remember sitting under that tent with, Pop's cousins. And, I think I'm generation 4 in that family. Pop was, the third. I think all of the Gen 2ers are all gone. At that point, they were all gone. And I remember, just like you said, Marcus, I remember feeling these are my roots. This is where I come from. It's part of who I am. Mm-hmm. And I just remember how healing it was. It was just so good to sit there. And I'm really excited to just share this. In the middle of May, I've been reaching out to a whole bunch of Pop's cousins and the folks that are left, those that were there, telling the stories about my great grandpa and just all that stuff. I've got 6 or 7 of them coming here in the middle of May. We're going to do our best to capture and record and kind of just go back and tell some of those stories again, and hopefully be able to capture them for the generations to come. I kind of see it as this big full circle kind of coming back around.
Well, hopefully they're not prepared, because coming here today, should I be prepared for something? Yeah. And
we thought,
talking
last night.
I mean, what you're doing right now is just, it's opening up. I have 3 more stories I'd like to tell. We don't have time, but it's genuine, I think, when you bring them in with no agenda, not prepared to do anything, but
it's the organicness of it.
Smell the smells and let it open the files.
Yeah. I love it. Guys, thank you. I so appreciate this.
Yeah.
Good.
Did you take stills?
No.
Dave, I thought of that last night, and I thought we need to make sure that Seth would take a still for you for the paper.
Yeah.
Okay, so just be in conversation again. I'll take a few stills here and on the other cameras.
Well, give us another one of your stories.
Well, I will tell another story. I wish I would have said it earlier, but when he was on the Higgins boat, again, in the second wave, they were going toward Sword Beach, Normandy Beach, and they started taking fire. And the captain of the boat, the driver, the pilot of the boat said, "Get off my boat." And he said, "We had to go over the side." He's 12 feet of water. I had 60 pounds on my back. What'd you do? I took it off. He said, "I crawled up on the beach and I didn't have anything." Well, what'd you do? I saw a gun next to a body. I went and picked up the gun and I started shooting. I ran out of ammo. I went to the next body, got back to ammo, put it in, started shooting again. We don't comprehend what that's about.
That's right.
in the
I
lives
can't
we have.
imagine.
And those guys would have been shooting the M1 Grands with
and
8.
And they were shooting up because those guys were shooting down, and
Yeah.
they were just getting picked off. The first wave got wiped out. It was just a sea of red.
Unbelievable.
I just cannot
We
imagine.
can't imagine what freedom costs
That's right.
when you talk about that.
We don't. No.
I would have
there's
loved to have
just-
captured that story.
Oh, my
Oh,
word.
man. From the guy
From the
who
guy.
lived it.
Yeah.
I just cannot imagine.
And yet, when you try to stage those, most of them don't work.
No, that wouldn't have.
It's not the same, is it?
That
And- and-
It's not the
organicness.
same.
Another funny, not so funny story is it's my turn to watch guard. So I get up and I pick myself up on a pile of stuff and canvas over it, and I'm sitting there and I'm eating my food, and all of a sudden, because they couldn't have lights on, they get bombed, and it occurred to me to look underneath, and he was sitting on a pile of bodies. And of course, all my food came back up, and
Oh, man. Wow.
I was so interested in following him that you could find the journals online. I mean, they've opened them up,
Yes, they have.
and you can follow his company and where they went for 3 days. I followed it, and everything got changed because how many people were left. And this group didn't get taken out, so now you're reassigned to go over and take these people out. In the end of the war, he was a good shot. So Barnhart, front and center. What for, sir? Well, there's a guy up there. He's not listening to us. He's gone from tree to tree. I was in Moscow, and I told Chuck Barnhart that, hey, a lot of the World War II soldiers there in Moscow wear their medals on their suits when they go to, like, a program. And he says, well, did you meet any limping? I said, no. What do you mean limping? Barnhart, take him out. I just shot him in the leg. Did you meet anybody limping?
Unreal. Unreal.
You know, you talked about things happening organically during this discussion. I just now thought of this where you were talking, Rock. It would be kind of cool to have little kids come in here and share stories. I think that would be really
From
neat.
their perspective.
Yeah, from their perspective.
Yeah, I just watched
think-
Jimmy Kimmel or somebody like that who goes out and interviews these kids. on the
Can you
streets.
imagine a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old sitting here talking about whatever? I think that would be hilarious.
what their world's like?
Oh, yeah. They would bring a completely different perspective.
Tell me about your world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what do you remember about your mom and dad or your grandma and grandpa? Or
You got to be careful now.
well, hey, this is their thing. This is their own thing, so they can share whatever.
My wife taught Sunday school, and she said, I found out more family secrets. Young kids.
As a Art Linkletter said.
Yeah. You all used to love that. Man. That was great.
Oh, man.
That's why Paul Harvey and Art
just-
Linkletter and those people why people listened to them.
It's
Because
genuine.
it engaged and it was
Yeah.
genuine.
Yeah.
Marlon, what's one book I should read?
What's a book
I
you
mean,
should
I
read?
only have about like 40-some on my to-read list.
Yeah.
Stack.
Boy, I'm in the middle of Kurt Thompson right now, The Anatomy of the Soul.
Yeah.
That's really good. Another one is, I forget the author's name, right? It'll come to me. The Remaking of the World. Christopher, it'll come.
Yes.
It's really interesting. He takes 1776 and he says, not only did the American Revolution happen, but there were 4 or 5 other like shocking events globally that happened in 1776. And he has this big long acronym, WEIRD or weirder, and it's Western and educated, and it's all these things.
Yeah.
And he goes through, and it's really, really interesting. You?
David Brooks, New York Times columnist.
Yeah.
Good guy. We may not agree politically, but he is a Jesus follower, and he has written a book about character, Road to
Really?
Character, and the Second Mountain, maybe. And he also is this complete introvert, struggled to talk to people, and went on a journey to discover how to do that, and wrote a book about how to connect to people emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
He's just good. He's a good writer.
You? Rock?
Oh, you've covered it.
Okay.
I mean, I love Dan Brown books, but
Yeah,
not
me
everybody
too.
does. Yeah, I just love the mystery. And,
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave?
I really don't like to read. I think that's for smart people. No, I am not a reader.
That's okay.
I just really am not. I'm a liver, I guess.
Yeah.
I experience life.
Yeah.
And that's where I get my education, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully not chopped liver.
I've been called worse. No, I talked about the last book I read. I don't know, something from Dr. Seuss, maybe. I don't know. No, I don't know. I'm just not a big reader.
That's okay.
There's another opportunity here, and that people do witnessing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reflecting on a story about when I was electrocuted in 1986. I got hit with 7,200 volts through my kneecap, a vehicle kneecap down, and how that affected my life forevermore, because I shouldn't be here today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I instantly went on a mission to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it took me about 10 or 15 years before a fellow came up to me and says, Rock, I know what it is. From church, his name Paul Pyers. Rock, a lot of people are watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't screw that up.
Mm-hmm.
That was his thing. You be the best you can be. That's your mission.
Wow.
That's good.
Well, there's another story there too, isn't there? Your dad had the same thing happen.
Well, Dad beat the life back into me on that one. He didn't know how to do CPR or anything like that. He ended up doing one more time, and he hit me with a cardiac thump, and I opened my eyes, and Dad, what the heck are you doing? And it was like there was just a lot of emotion behind it. And I remember my brother Rusty had come up and said, Rock, you've been shocked, but you're going to be okay. And my wife said she spent 3 days with a guy that couldn't remember where he was in Akron Children's Hospital and burn ward. And it changed the way I live. I mean, you get an opportunity like that, and you should be gone. The next day is a gift, and you got to live it like that. You have to look for the golden nugget in that day, and that mission is just so much more fun than being miserable.
Yes.
Yeah.
People have a choice. They can either choose misery or happiness. It's a choice every day. A lot of people are miserable because they choose misery. That's what they look for. You should look for happiness.
But I think a lot of them live in that comfort zone. That's where they're comfortable, in their own misery, which is sad.
If I can make that person miserable too, then...
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I can't live like that. I can't do it.
I choose not to.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's...
And when we live like that, we actually have the ability to cross boundaries with people, where the boundaries that separate people in our modern world are just not there anymore. Because
I've taken that attitude, and I took my whole family. There's 10 of us, and we need to break through some boundaries. Okay, what are you going to do, Rock? Well, we're going to go to a ranch in Colorado, Granby, Colorado, and we're going to ride horses. Oh, I can't do that. I can't ride a plane. Well, on the way there, we're also going to go up a mountain on a ski lift. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I had about 3 or 4 of the family members said they just can't do. And well, there's my mission. Mm-hmm. By the time we were done, they did it all, plus a zip line across a 400-foot gorge. The confidence that they had when they came home that I can do things. I can do more than what the limits were dropped. Mm-hmm. So that was huge.
So I got a question. So let's go all the way back. Okay. God creates the world, all that. He puts trees out there. He creates language. And then he gives us a vocabulary somehow. I don't know how, but somehow we can take a thought out of our head with a writing instrument, put it on a paper that comes out of the tree, and you capture that thought for posterity. Okay? That's the whole thing of books.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing of books. And that's the part of books that I like too.
Yeah.
And you can create. I'm starting to wonder, and I'm a print guy. I love magazines and books. I'm like you. That's what I love. But I'm starting to wonder if this right here is in a way replacing.
So John Mann wrote a book called Alphabeto, about the alphabet. He says there are 4 turnings in human history. One is when humans learn an alphabet. The second is when they learn how to write it. The third is the printing press. And the fourth is the digital revolution, and we're living in it right now.
And you have to add the AI.
Well, so that's part of the digital revolution. But the point he was trying to make is that the time between those changes becomes smaller every time.
It gets
And
exponentially smaller
yes,
time.
and yeah, I think, I mean, there'll always be books, but this, I think, supplements reading. I listen to podcasts every day.
Yeah, that's me.
I listen to podcasts every day.
See, I don't.
And that's replaced a lot of my reading.
See, and that's when I was in high school, we had a test on artists, and you had to memorize the artist's name, their paintings, what the era was.
Yep.
All these, there's like six different things of all these different artists. And I had a horribly hard time with it. I struggled so hard with that just because it's all just rote memory stuff. And it was kind of funny because we then did that with musical composers, and I got 106% on the test.
Because you could listen to
There's
it.
a passion
It's all
Wow.
oral and
Auditory.
musical and-
Auditory.
yeah, and that's why I enjoy this. I enjoy
Yeah.
the rapport between people, which to me is exciting. I get so much. I can sit down and read a book and read a page and turn the page and go, "What did I just read?" Maybe I'm ADHD a little bit. I don't know. That could
I
be.
am.
But I mean, I've always struggled with that. And but when you hear these things, and it becomes more meaningful to me hearing these stories. I think that's why I think that's the joy of what you're doing here, Marlon, is being able to experience that.
This is just the beginning of what you're doing.
Well,
This is going to bloom and be something else eventually.
Well, thank you. Can I just make an observation? Look at what has happened around the table in a half an hour.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
This
40
is
minutes flew by.
This is a key unlocking a big door.
Yeah.
I
Stuff behind it.
yeah, I think
And this
you're
has
right.
made me appreciate my family more, just listening to these stories. It really has.
Yeah.
Now, you've never been in a room my brothers and I get together. I'm not sure we want to record that.
Oh yeah, you do.
It is hilarious. I mean,
I
'cause
would
we rip on
pay
each
good
other
money for
so
that.
bad.
You record that, I will pay money for that.
I mean, Bill's in the room too.
You know, I'm also, like, I think what it does when we do this, it does something to our community. I work with the community every day. I mean, it's part of what I do is, and there are these natural boundaries. I mean, you've got the Amish and the English, you've got East and West homes, you've got all these boundaries. And when we begin to tell stories, suddenly those boundaries are gone.
Yep.
And we realize that at our core, we're simply humans. I'm thinking the same thing. My 4 sisters and me in a room. I'm not sure you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's great, but I'm not sure I want to record it.
I'm not ready to yet.
Well, let me just remind us all, I think, we aren't doing this kind of thing for us and our kids.
No.
We're not. We're doing it for generations to come.
Yeah.
And that gets exciting. That gets exciting. So, guys, this has been awesome.
Yeah, this is
Thank
great.
you very much.
Yeah,
I love it.
Appreciate it.
I love it. I love it.
Rock. Good seeing you again.
Hey,
Marcus. Good seeing you.
Good to see you.